In today's solo episode with me, your host, Rosalia Lazzaretilli of The Money Honey Show, I'm going to be taking on the task of talking about ADHD and how that's been showing up in business and how that's been showing up for my clients. So I'm coming at this from my client's perspective rather than me. I don't know if I'm on the spectrum or not. I've got some signs and I've got some um something that sometimes raises that question, but I'll go into that. I also want to talk about in today's episode how I've nearly lost clients and relationships because of ADHD not allowing like clear communication. So that's been something, and I want to share like some real transparent stories. And I want to share how I've adapted as a leader and as how I've adapted as a mentor and coach and trainer and social media manager for my clients, and how I've dealt with their ADHD in order to make it more comfortable, more pleasurable, and more productive when working together. So we're going to jump into this episode, all things ADHD, and how I've been able to handle it during, my client relationships. But I come with a warning that I am not a doctor and I am not a psychologist, and I don't have scientific or medical experience. So please don't take this episode as a diagnosis, as advice, as guidance. This is not me. Dictating what and what isn't ADHD, what's right, what's wrong. I'm just simply sharing my experience of how I've seen things show up in my business, how I've seen things happen, and when I think like of situations that didn't make sense, and then I'm like, oh, right, got it. That's why. So yes, I want to speak very openly and truthfully about my experiences, but I don't aim to diagnose or give a solution. I'm not preaching. I'm just simply documenting my journey and my take on this. So please don't come at me if I get something wrong. I'm likely to get it wrong, and please correct me with the kindest intentions. Like, if there's something that I am not aware of, which I'm not, there's lots of things I don't know about ADHD. There's loads of things that are misunderstood. If there's something that you can give in terms of feedback constructively and positively, you can do one or two things. You can comment on the video, you can share it, and you can talk to me about it in the comments, or you can come on if you're such an expert in anything. If you are such the expert or the expert in something, please come and talk about it. I mean that at the bottom of with all my heart. We want more experts on various topics. And by expert, I don't mean you need to be a medical professional. If you are, great, medical, anything like that. But also, you could be the expert because you're the expert in your own life and you've been through it. So if you want to come and share your own story of what that's felt like, and if you've got something practical and useful and valuable that you want to share about how perhaps you've coped with ADHD and running a business, or ADHD and finances, whatever your angle, please do know that we want to welcome those stories. So thank you. So let me start off by saying I do not know if I've got ADHD or not, and that's not what today's to explore. I've not been interested, if I'm honest with you, in getting a private diagnosis. If I wanted to, I probably could, but I've not really ever felt the need to want to know, and never questioned myself like, oh, is this ADHD? Like, I've not really done that unless I'm having a conversation with someone. They say something, I'm like, I do that too. So I've merely been curious about the topic. And then recently, I actually had to reflect that I have done a lot as a service provider to adapt to my clients' ADHD circumstances, because they have openly told me about their ADHD, which has helped our relationship so much more. They've been honest and open with me about what they are feeling, how they like to learn, how they like to cope with things. And because they've been honest, I've been able to adapt and give them what they want. So that was why I wanted to do this episode about it, because I see you, I feel your experience because I'm there with you. And if you're a service provider, if you're a coach or you're a mortgage advisor or you're a lender and you're thinking, why doesn't this client get it? Like, why are we battling? Why is there confusion? Why is there a conflict? And you can't put your finger on it. Maybe there is a conversation there to be had, open and honest, if you have that relationship with your client, about how to receive information and how to give information. So it goes both ways. I will say that the relationship goes both ways. If you have ADHD and you're receiving a service, you, in my opinion, should be telling that person giving you the service what about ADHD you have, how you work, how you like to listen, how you like to take information on board, how you don't like to take information on board, because it's not fair on that service provider to just guess and assume. And I think that's where the breakdown in conversations happen, where there's a misunderstanding and there's some sort of misalignment there where one person might not actually be fully speaking their truth. You know, when you hear people saying, speak your truth. And I wanted to talk about a particular situation that made me reflect on this whole topic of ADHD and why I'm bringing it to the forefront on the show today. That was because I nearly lost a friend who also became a client, but I nearly lost their friendship. And I don't know if they're listening to this show, but I mean it with all the love and kindness that I I was sensing some frustration from their part, which was making me frustrated. So here's the story, okay? And I want to say it because this is a positive story in the end. So I had a client who is an avid note taker. Okay, this is my reflections of like looking back and looking at their behavioral traits and why I wasn't understanding. And I was just like, right, they're always showing up, taking notes, going to all the events, coming to my sessions, taking notes, doing the session, have these big brand visions and make really big promises. And then nothing was delivered. And before we had the ADHD conversation, I was like, this person just doesn't do the work. Like they show up, they say they're going to do it, they take the notes, and then nothing. They don't take action. They don't take action. They don't take action. And that was frustrating me as a service provider or as their coach and mentor. You know, they were working with me for all things social media and content ideas and brand strategy. And I could see that the other thing I was reflecting on was that they have always got something going on, lots of things, fingers in lots of pies, fingers in lots of pies. They're always doing something. They always make you realize that like, boom, 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 I'm doing this, this, that. And I was like, wow, they're like mega energy, super on it. But then on the results base, I was like, but where is it? Where can I see that you're on it? You know, you're doing all these things, but where is it? What's the end result? So I was trying to keep them accountable. And I was like, you know, we've got to take action. And I was trying different things like, you know, making the information bite size and making it this and making it. I was like, what's happening? Like, I'm really struggling with this client. I'm really unable to get through to them and I'm unable to really get to the other side. And then I realized that there was they were putting loads of delays, loads of blockers, loads of barriers, and that wasn't aligning with my services, by the way, because obviously my services are priced based on time that I have to give up, you know, that time, and based on deliverables. So, you know, if you ask me to bake you a cake, right, that cake is going to take me a certain amount of hours, but obviously you're paying for the end product of the cake, and you know, you're not going to taste it until you get it and eat it, but you're also paying for the time that it takes me. So the more elaborate the cake, the more the cake is going to cost. You know, you're still going to eat it, but the cake has a different price depending on how much time. So the long story short is that I have to price up my packages based on how much time and energy and how much productivity and how much stuff I'm delivering for that client. So when a client delays things or puts things off or cancels things and reschedules things all the time, that's going to have an effect on cost, because even if I can be lenient and say, okay, don't worry, there's no penalty fee here and no fee there, it is a massive cost to my time because, you know, so I was trying to find a respectful happy medium conversation, which was really difficult because I was like, I don't want to be that stubborn, stuck in my ways, like, oh no, this is our policy, you can't do it any other way. But then at the same time, if you didn't pay your mortgage, you have to, like, if you buy something, and you want to return it, you need a receipt, right? You can say, look, I've got ADHD, but I lost the receipt. Can you help me? I don't know what a shop would do about that. If you go to your mortgage lender and say, sorry, I didn't do XYZ because I've got ADHD, I'm not sure how they would take a view on that. So I kind of had to, it was really hard. Like, the reason I'm sharing this, I just opened the door, I'm very hot. The reason I'm sharing this is because it's really hard when you're trying to be a caring, understanding, nurturing person to really stick by your boundaries and your business terms at the same time. So I found that really tricky. And to be honest, I probably still to this day, if I really think about it, I don't have a solution other than, as a business owner, if you're listening to this, business to business, your contracts are there in place for a reason, okay? And even if you do show some degree of flexibility, at what cost? This is going to cost your business something as well. So you've got to be considerate of that. Some people have, spent a lot of time with me, said, yeah, let's go for it. And then they're like, oh, can I have a refund for the latter part of I can't do it? And I'm like, well, no, like we already started the service. We've got to finish it. And if you don't finish it, everyone's services are, you've got your own parameters and your own. What I'm trying to say is, there is no solution to me honoring my contract, honoring my my boundaries, and still being kind to that person who has expressed that they've got ADHD. And that's been a real difficulty, guys, in the business, where I want to be so caring and understanding and so flexible, but at the same time, I've got to run a business, and there's people that I've paid, or there's deposits that I've put down. There's time in my diary that I've blocked out that I now can't give to anybody else because I gave it to you. And you know, this song and dance that we do backwards and forwards costs the business money, and puts me in a difficult position. So whilst I try and do my best to put that person in a good position and help them feel taken care of, I still have to take care of myself too. So that's been a challenge. But with this particular person, I'd shown loads of flexibility. I was like, yeah, let's reschedule, last minute reschedule, second last minute reschedule, third last minute reschedule. We had, we did a lot of rejigging around of like sessions, missed sessions last minute. Then we rescheduled that session. So I didn't actually honour anything from my contract about late penalty fees, cancellation fees. I didn't abide by any of those rules in the end. I made everything as flexible as possible. Until the final straw where I said, look, this is the final time. I'm going to give it another go. Let's reschedule. Let's do this. Let's do that. And it flopped again. They cancelled and wanted to reschedule. But by that point, I'd already messed around the videographer big time because we had to film the content anyway. So I'd messed someone else around, and I don't want to be the domino effect to other people getting messed around. Okay. So I was like, look, it's not, I know messed around. I know people aren't doing it out of malintent. Okay. So I'm not saying that person went out of their way to mess me around. Like like I said, they were a friend first and client second, but at the same time, I had responsibilities within my team that I had to abide by. So I lost the deposit. So I went back to the client and I said, look, did you want to pick things up again? It's been a really long time. I don't want to give up on you. I really believe in your future. I really believe that this is going to work for you. I feel like you just need someone who doesn't back down, keeps you accountable. I know things happen in life. So I went back with this like really heartfelt message saying, with my intentions, really heartfelt intentions being, I really don't want to give up on you. I really want to give you another chance. So I sent them the invoice and they got really, really off with me. Like they were like, I could just tell, when you can tell in a message, you're like, okay, this person is not really they had like single words with a full stop. They were replying in one word letter, like one word answers. And they basically cut me off. And I went back with a voice note and just had the heart to heart. And this is where it leads to my point about being speaking my honest truth, and then also allowing someone else their space to speak their honest truth as well. And with this particular client, I just said, look, I can tell, because we're friends, I can tell when you're pissed off at me. I can tell, I don't know what I've done or what I've said, but I can tell that you're not enjoying this conversation. You're cutting me off. I can tell that you're angry at me. I don't know why. I'm trying to really back you up here and support you. However, that's you as my friend. If you can understand as well me as a business, I have been flexible here, 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 and here. And now that I'm, digging my heels in about this particular parameter, and I'm not able to flex this, you're not getting, you're not happy with me. So when I was making all the flexible moves and I was being really flexible, you appreciated it, but you also have to appreciate that this is business and I have to. Anyway, they replied and were like, thanks for clarifying. No, I really appreciate it. I'm really sorry. And they say my ADHD got in the way. The way I read your message was XYZ. I know you didn't mean it like that, or I now know what you mean. And therefore I do appreciate it. Thank you. So that, I still have to be vague. I don't want to disclose everything, but just that, I hope if they are listening, I still hold them in a really special place in my heart. And I really have so much respect for them and hope that they do well. But at the same time, if you're my friend or if anyone's my friend, but also in business, boundaries are boundaries, contracts are contracts. They are to be respected, as I would respect yours as well. So I, again, raise this point because sometimes it might feel like as a service provider, you feel guilty. And not that they're making you feel guilty, but you make yourself feel guilty for not being flexible because you've got to protect your boundaries and your contracts. And I'm here to say, even though it feels uncomfortable for me as well, that is our duty as business owners. There's nothing wrong with you actually standing your ground and protecting your boundaries. So I wanted that to be one of the lessons for today. The second thing was speaking your truth and allowing that person to speak their truth. That's my second top tip with working with ADHD clients, is that I seek to understand and then to be understood. So I have given that person plenty of opportunities to explain why the cancellation, why the rescheduling. I've agreed to every one of their logistical movements that have not let the service go as I planned, but let it go as they planned. And I've tried to accommodate in so many different ways. And then when it got to that point where I needed to be understood and was like, look, I have done X, Y, Z for you in exchange, or just as a compromise, or even just as a bare minimum, this is what I'm going to be doing for me. And I had to have that honest and open conversation, full well knowing that that person could quite easily walk away and say, I'm cutting you out of my life because you did not give me everything I wanted. And then that would tell me everything I needed to know about that person as a human being, but also as a client. So I fully went into a conversation, and when it's time to be open, transparent and honest, which is always, by the way, it's always the time to be honest, transparent and direct. So I allow myself to have those conversations, even when they're extremely difficult, even when they're extremely harsh. That's what I have to do. That's exactly the conversation I have to have. And that's why I gave that person the safe space to be able to be vulnerable and to be able to be honest. Because I said, look, man, like, what's wrong? What have I done? Tell me right now. And so I allowed them to feel heard. And that's what I think helped our relationship. Completely changing the story entirely to another angle, to another scenario, because that was one standalone case. Another one being how my clients have had, with those with ADHD, the ones that have the big energy, big ideas, and work in a very short, concentrated amount of time, rather than slow, steady, long, consistent pieces of effort and sustained work over time. Sometimes they have disappeared for long periods, and then they come back and they've done 6 weeks worth of homework in one day in 2 hours. And what I've had to do is put aside how I would do things. So I'm the type of person, again, get bursts of energy, but I'm more consistent than anything else. I'm more like steady, always, always maintaining a consistent effort, like gym consistently, work consistently. I'm just a consistent person. Like consistency is my middle name. I don't come all out with big ideas, then retract and do nothing, and then come out with big ideas again and then retract and do nothing. I am literally that steady, consistent. I'm always going to be there. Like, look at if you follow me on LinkedIn, I have not stopped for one day for the last 5 years. Sorry, if anyone's watching me on camera, you can tell that I am super frustrated right now by my eyebrows and eyelashes that are seriously getting in the way. Um, yeah, I don't know. I've got something in my eye. Apologies about that. Yeah, so you will know that someone like me is there. Whenever you need me, I'm there. You log into LinkedIn, I'm there. You turn up at the gym, I'm there. Even when I don't feel like it. So what I had to deal with in those clients that were like with bursting in and out of energy, I used to see that, honestly, that used to frustrate me because I was like, why are they not there? Why are they not consistent? Why have they disappeared? Because it was very frustrating when you're showing up every day and they've disappeared. You're like, where are they? So I had to then be excited for when they would show up. So think about this. I had to put my feelings aside, right, for their disappearance act. They would disappear and I'd be like, right, okay, that's frustrating me now. And so you chase them, you check in, and then when they come back, because when they want to come back, they were like, hey, Ross, I've just done this. I'm so excited. I'm doing all this. I'm like, right, oh my God. So I had to learn very quickly that whilst they were up, whilst they were on a high, I had to be on a high with them because I didn't want them to be on a high and then me shut them down and be like, well, where have you been? Because I had to learn very quickly that those with ADHD would have found that as, rather than an amicable conversation about, hey guys, look, this is not working for me, where you disappear off and then I'm left to do, to look for you, that doesn't work for me. Whereas I had to try and be excited for them when they were excited to capitalize on that energy. So I kind of had to put my own feelings aside, that right or wrong. Again, like I said, I'm not a therapist. I don't know how to deal with these situations until they arise. But rightly or wrongly, I just basically decided that when they did make the grand appearance again, I would capitalize on their enthusiasm and I would try and get so much done in such a short, concentrated space of time to ensure that they were the best version of themselves and that we could get the best version of whatever it is that we were working on. This is why our package, even with those who don't have ADHD, works so amazing. The one where, again, if you follow me, you'll know that I talk a lot about like the 3 months of content in one day. Now, some people might look at that and be like, well, that is overwhelming. That's too much for me. I can't deal with it. But to most, that's been productive. High intense energy in a short space of time and then it's done. To many, it's felt like the most accountable and productive and fun thing to do. For some people, it's the difference between getting it done and not getting it done. So that's where I've adapted not just my coaching style, but also my packages and services to help that individual as best as I possibly can. It's helped me align my service to that specific person. So if I know, for example, that someone gets overwhelmed really easily and they can't take on too much at any one time, I won't be doing the social media content, the brand strategy, and the filming day all in one go. I would probably give them a much smaller package and then work them up and work them towards, those more time intensive and energetically intensive services at a later stage. So at the beginning, I might have to actually reassure them and make them feel safe before, and there's not been one client in the last 5 years that has had their first service with me being a camera in their face. Absolutely not. Like if you were to book me today, I will not be showing up on Monday with a camera in your face being like, let's go. I would take my time in coaching you to get you to that point, getting you ready, getting the strategy organized, getting the planning all set up, getting all the content ideas, absolutely nailed. And then I would work you up to the point of, photographs and videos, and more on that in a minute of how I break things down for my clients. So, for example, speaking about breaking things down and ensuring that my clients understand, um, with our content days, let's say, a lot of people have anxiety, regardless of whether you're labeled with ADHD or anything else. Everyone has anxiety. Most people have anxiety in front of the camera. So a lot of people kind of work themselves up around that situation. They're like, oh, I know I need to do content and I need to be on camera, but I just don't know what to do or what to say. And I don't want Wasavia to turn up and, expect you. Everyone always makes those excuses like, Roz, I'm not going to be perfect. I'm not going to remember all my lines. And I'm like, whoa, woosa. So I have to break it down, help them feel ready, leading up to that moment, right to the very moment when we press record, and then the real test begins. But before we turn up to record, I do everything I possibly can to ease my clients' nerves, regardless of their labels. I do this for everybody. And that is like, we go to the nitty gritty of planning the details of what to wear, what the venue's going to look like, um, the scripts, every detail of what order we're going to do the videos in, what style. I even get my clients to do a Pinterest board. So that's just something that my clients have really enjoyed, is that some of my clients are very visual people. So again, going back to that ADHD, are you more visual? Are you like a pictures person or a word person? So I get them to do a Pinterest board. And I didn't realize that I was doing this as a favor and in benefit of someone with ADHD until they gave me that feedback. So this is how I've come to learn that my services and my coaching style has been really flexible and enjoyable for ADHD clients, because I've got all these little tips and tricks like games and breaking down like the jargon and breaking down the tasks and activities, making it more manageable. All of this has given me confirmation that whilst it works for every client, it particularly works well for ADHD clients. And I didn't design it to be for that style. It just happened that I'm very good, I think, and feedback is always welcome, guys. If you do work with me, I love a bit of feedback. Feel free. But I like adapting to that person. I like pushing them outside their comfort zone, but I also like being really quite flexible around, oh, okay, I've noticed that they like pictures, so I'm going to try and paint a picture for what I want them to do for the day. And I think that also came from like my sales background, where whether I wanted to or didn't want to, I just was naturally really good on the phone. I was naturally really good at events and doing biz dev and sales. But when I wanted to get good and consciously good, because like you can have the gift of the gab, as people would say, but I wanted to be good. Like I wanted to be a master at my skill, as I do with anything. And I wanted to master the skill of talking to people, because I just knew that if you could talk to people really well, that would build bonds and relationships that were unbreakable, and that would be would be a lasting bond. So I wanted to get good at talking to people, not good at sales. I wanted to be good at talking to people and building relationships, which in turn helped me sell more. But I cared about the people first. And so what I did was learn about like different people styles, like you can do those tests. And if you haven't, please do, like the different color personality, like whether you're a blue or a red, or like if you haven't guessed, I am alert red. I am major red zone. But like I've got a bit of blue and a bit of yellow. Some people have a bit of everything in them, but yeah, major red color. And then I've had to learn like, oh, okay, is my client a bit more of a blue, more of green? Green, I think, is more like analytical, numbers driven, very in the nitty gritty. Like my husband is a green, like very, very, very green. So he needs like the detail about everything. He loves spreadsheets. So I would be very accommodating to clients, whether we would build their content plan on a spreadsheet or on Word, or we would build it on a just visual. So yeah, I had to adapt to that. So yeah, that's how I learned to adapt to my clients, learning about their personality, their learning styles, learning about what makes them retain information better, giving them homework, checking in on them on WhatsApp, like, hey, how you doing with that? Just in case I can sense that they kind of are the type of person that take on too much and then forget things. And if I can see that they're a bit forgetful, I won't make them feel bad about it in the next session. Like, oh, you forgot. I would just make sure I would like check in on them a couple of times a week and say, hey, how are you getting on with that homework we discussed? Any questions on it? Just to give them, that little soft reminder. So again, all of these things have naturally happened just by listening to my clients and seeing how they react and respond to certain things that I do. And it's been a journey, guys. Like, I've absolutely loved it. I've absolutely loved learning about different people, different styles. I'm not afraid to take on board a client who is neurodivergent and needs more hand holding. Oh, that was another thing that my clients loved even before they started working with me. What they absolutely loved, my proposals are so thorough. Like, I actually am so proud of my proposals that I did from day one. Obviously, they've evolved and they've become a bit more eloquent, but the same attitude I was applying from day one in my business, even before my limited company had been registered yet and all was signed off. I remember writing my proposals on Canva and then being like really accurate about the conversation we had, the goals, the objectives, the gaps, the challenges. And then when I proposed my package, my proposal would actually break down. Like, let's say, for example, I gave someone a 12-week coaching program. It wasn't just a bullet point list of everything we're going to cover in 12 weeks. I would actually plan week 1. This is what we're going to do. This is the objective and this is the deliverable. Week 2. Now I'm giving my secrets away from my proposal, but I'm happy to help. I'm happy to give that away. Not my proposal away, but I'm happy to give out my top tips, because honestly, it's helped me convert and close so much business because my clients have had every faith and confidence in me for being organized, meticulous, attention to detail, really thorough, really clear and specific. So I always say, if you haven't heard me speak live or read my content, this might be the first time you hear it, but it is literally a sentence that I could tattoo to my body, which is, how you do anything is how you do everything. And I literally live and stand by that. If my proposal is shoddy, floppy, loads of mistakes, and is like not really thorough, then that's going to give you an impression that I'm not going to be very thorough and I'm going to be floppy in my service. So I want the experience that everyone has from the beginning, from your inquiry or your inquiry experience. Like, the booking form is professional. You're in my calendar. You get a follow-up email to remind you of our meeting. Then I present, I come onto the meeting with, even if I'm not wearing makeup that day and I've got my slippers on, I will give you the best of me and make sure you've got a great introductory meeting. Then the proposal is really thorough. I spend 2-3 hours designing a proposal sometimes. So it really upsets me when people ghost me and they're like, yeah, I'll see you to talk about the proposal, and then they don't show up. You win some, you lose some, but it really, I really do invest a lot of time in it. And my clients have said, even before they sign up to work with me, that they've never seen a proposal like it. So I think you've got to find what works for you, but pull in, like, yes, what works for you, but pull in all the ways in which this is in ways in which you can make it work for others. So if people are analytical, because I can't get to, if I'm in an introductory meeting with you, I'm not that quick to learn, oh, they're a green person or blue or red. I might have a vague idea, but I try and cover all bases. So in my proposals, I give like testimonials that are emotional based and testimonials that are statistical and analytical. I give examples of work that I've done where clients have grown in confidence versus clients that have grown in revenue, So I try and cover off all bases so that and I'm not perfect at it. I'm just saying that I try. I try and speak their language. I try and go at their rhythm and go at their pace. But, we're not here to get it perfect. We're all, human beings at the end of the day. But I do really think that as a leader, as a business owner, you need to make it your priority to bring in these different skills and tools, to bring in this feedback that you get from other clients, where you too analytical in one of your meetings, where you're not analytical enough? Did clients usually say that you always run over time and that you waffle? Or, could you be better at being more succinct in your meetings? I allow my clients to record their sessions because sometimes they want to use AI, and I encourage it, where they might want to use AI to summarize my session, to get the best bits, to get the bullet points. That is a wonderful idea. Um, that is a wonderful top tip, because if you don't want to watch, like I personally, and I've learned this about myself, I used to think it was a good idea recording all my calls until I realized I had hours and hours and hours of video calls recorded that I never watched back. I never watched the recordings. I never had the time to do that again. I was always on to the next thing. So I realized that video recordings just weren't good for me. But the AI note taker that I've now got for my meetings is really good for me, because I can actually get the summary and bullet points, because I want quick, fiery, Brad. I want quick, fiery answers. I haven't got time to look at every single detail. I just want the highlights. Especially if I'm reliving, a previous meeting or something like that. So that's what I know to be true for me. But my clients might say, oh yes, I do love listening to 1 hour video of you rambling on about LinkedIn. So yes, please, can I record it? So I've allowed them to have that option during our sessions as well. So yeah, guys, I wanted to bring this show together as a highlight for the importance of that client service provider relationship, how important and vital it is to have open and honest communication, how it's crucial for you to speak your truth and to allow your client to speak theirs, and to give your client the environment and the safety net to be able to be themselves. But also you, if you're a client, give your service provider the opportunity to learn and rectify and correct and adapt to your style by telling them what you like and what you don't like. It is a communication breakdown, and that's why you might not be getting the best out of the service. I also wanted to bring this as a highlight, to highlight the importance of you as a leader to improve yourself, to be better at what you're like as a leader, to be better as a provider. If you're providing the service, life coaching, mortgage advice, property investment advice, you need to be good at delivering that information, right? You can't just say, well, that's just what I'm like. I don't know how to teach. So, but I'm good at investing. So I'll just, no, if you are in the business of teaching, if you're in the business of providing the service, you need to make it your responsibility to be good at that. And that means getting feedback, getting training, getting coaching. And that's all I really want to highlight for today. Like I said at the beginning, I welcome constructive feedback. I welcome your comments, your views. How do you like to give out that type of service to neurodivergent people? Do you do it? Do you avoid it? Have you even contemplated that? Have you even tried to figure out amongst your clients? Have you done a poll or a survey? Maybe you could put something out there and say, hi, I'm a mortgage advisor, and I would love to know if any clients would like to come forward and share whether they are neurodivergent or not. And because I'd like to ask you some feedback questions. I'd like to improve my service. I'd love to know from, why not? Why not do that survey in your business, whatever business that you're in? You could do it on LinkedIn. Whatever, I'd say private is probably better, asking your clients, hey, if you've used my service before and you class yourself as neurodivergent, I would love to speak to you, please. Would love some feedback, something like that. And I promise you, I do really feel like it's going to make you better as a business owner, as a leader, and as a provider. So thank you so much once again for tuning into the Money Honey Show. This show has breathed life into so many individuals out there who have been brave enough to come on the show and be a money honey. There's been so much sharing, like anything from the menopause to having a baby and career suicide, to managing work-life balance, to mental health in the workplace, dealing with being the only woman in the room, going for awards, being the only female in the board of directors, and so much more, building your brand. There's been an episode for everybody. And I really do hope that if this is the first time you've ever come across it, welcome. This is a very welcoming and buzzing community of men, women, everybody. Okay. Even though we are the Money Honey at interviewing women in property finance and construction, that's the space to highlight. This is a space to highlight and celebrate the voices within our industry. But we have champions from all different backgrounds. You know, some of our avid listeners are men who are wanting to learn more about how to be more diverse and inclusive within their business, and they're championing women within their workplace as well. So they're some of our best fans, and we come as a place of, you know, we want these episodes to give you and everybody the opportunity to hear those voices. And that's what I've created here. It's not been for everybody. You know, there is backlash sometimes about, you know, why only women. I'll leave that to you to answer and decide. So once again, thank you so much for being a loyal listener or a new listener. So if you do want to become part of the community, it'd mean the world to me for you to subscribe. Even if you've listened 100 times and you've forgotten to subscribe, please do so, because it helps the show grow and it helps us keep it going. You can find us on social media. On social media, it's literally just Rosalia Lazara. So LinkedIn, Instagram. But the Money Honey lives and breathes on Spotify and YouTube. So thank you from wherever you're tuning in. Thank you for being on the show here today.